Hello, Bible readers. Hear my voice, preserve my life, hide me from their secret plots, their scheming, for they whet their tongues like swords, they aim bitter words like arrows. It's imagery like this that makes Psalm 64 one of the most famous for its use of words, its consideration of words, and how powerful words really are. I remember as a kid hearing that proverb, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." That never made sense to me because in my experience, words hurt, albeit in a different way. Words still hurt a lot. In fact, I don't remember the pain of my eardrum breaking when I was 7 with an ear infection, but I do remember still my 8th grade basketball coach telling me, "You do understand, I hope, why you didn't get in that last game. We wanted to win." Ooh, right? Like, I can still feel 13-year-old Jason feel bad about that. The psalmist isn't just talking, though, about how words can hurt feelings. The psalmist is talking about words that can hurt lives. Twice in my Brueggemann and Bellinger commentary, they mention that in ancient society, real damage could be done to a person's position and even their security by malicious gossip. Lies could lead to seriously grave consequences in this ancient culture. And I'm not saying gossip or lies cannot do damage today. Of course they can. But there's a far greater sense today of, live and let live. Maybe we'll ostracize someone or, kick them out of a social group. But I don't think we hear much about a rumor starting to pass around and then people are so angry that a horde of villagers agrees to physically punish the alleged wrongdoer. Like that level doesn't happen so much. The psalmist claims righteousness, as always in a lament. The wronged psalmist is claiming moral high ground, and so a just God would do something to show the whole community how amazing and just and clever and strong God is. Yes, I'm lamenting for my own sake, the psalmist is saying. Fix this. And it's such a great opportunity for you, God, to be clever, to be strong, to be wonderful. I love Psalm 64 because I have felt the feelings of the psalmist here, the fantasies that the psalmist has constructed about these lies his enemies tell becoming their own ruin. The irony of that people would lay their own traps with their own words, their own gossip, that the arrows they shoot at the psalmist come right back at them. It's all hunting imagery, you probably noticed, and the second half, verses 7 to 10, are a mirror image of the first 6 verses. These people who whet their tongues like swords, it's because of those very tongues that we see in verse 7, 8, 9, 10, that God brings judgment. And not in secret, by the way. That's the other part of this kind of constructed fantasy the psalmist has. Not only will their own words come back at them, but God's judgment, God's justice will happen not in secret. Their sudden and complete downfall will happen in public. All who see them, the psalmist says, will shake with horror. They will tell what God has brought about and ponder what God has done. It's all going to be so amazing. Now, this feeling, after you see a movie or some kind of sports game and it ends with a surprise, a great surprise, and you just sit there, after the movie's done or the game's done, and you just ponder what happened. Wow. That feeling does not lead to a vengeful follow-up action. It's where the psalmist now gets to mete out greater punishment himself. Like, now that you're down, I'm going to take you out. That's not what the psalmist is asking for. And in fact, that's not what the Psalms ever ask for, is it? I mean, we're into the 60s of the Psalms now, and that's just not how it works. Instead, the feeling that comes from seeing God do God's thing in public, taking those arrows, throwing them back at the wrongdoers, that feeling of the psalmist leads not to vengeance, but to rejoicing and praise, to a call to trust God, to give thanks to God. Psalm 64 is a great one for those times of life when you just know in your soul that the enemy just can't keep getting away with these things they're saying. You know their time will come. Waiting for that time is hard, right? But Psalm 64 reminds us that God's clever, just-filled endings, well, I don't know that I would say that they're worth the wait, but those endings that God makes happen, they do make the waiting feel less powerless. Reading a psalm like Psalm 64 makes the waiting feel less hopeless, less scary, less fearful. Instead, reading a psalm like Psalm 64, we can give thanks now. We can trust now that God will be God in whatever situation we find ourselves in, because God is and always has been God. A note, I'm away for the next week or so, taking our kids here at our church to the ELCA youth gathering in New Orleans. So there's going to be a brief hiatus with this deep dive into the Psalms. I plan to post Psalm 65 Wednesday, July 24th. I hope you do stick with me. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.